Hello, math analysis students. In this video, we will be going over the answers to the homework worksheet that was assigned on sine, cosine, and tangent. Remember that sine is just the y-coordinate of the terminal points that go with that value on the circle. The cosine is just the x-coordinate of those terminal points, and the tangent value is y over x. So for each of these problems, we want to think about which family this radian's in, and which quadrant it's in, and which coordinate. Are we looking at x or y over x? Okay, let's start. For number one, the tangent of pi over 4. I'm going to make little notes down here. The tangent is y over x, and pi over 4 is in the first quadrant, and our coordinates for pi over 4 are root 2 over 2 and root 2 over 2, so that y over x is a positive 1. For our second one, sine of pi over 6, sine is just our y-coordinate, and pi over 6 is in our first quadrant, so the y-coordinates for pi over 6 is 1/2. For number 3, the cosine of pi over 4, cosine is the x-coordinate, pi over 4 is in our first quadrant, and our pi over 4 family is root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2, so our x-coordinate is just root 2 over 2. For number 4, we have cosine, which is the x-coordinate of 11 pi over 4. Now picture going around your circle, and 11 pi over 4 is in the third quadrant. Excuse me, I didn't mean to say third quadrant. I meant to say that it's in the second quadrant. My apologies there. 11 pi over 4 is in the second quadrant, and our x-coordinate for our pi over 4 family in the second quadrant is negative root 2 over 2. For number 5, sine is our y-coordinate. 7 pi over 6 is in the third quadrant, and our y-coordinate for pi over 6 family in the third quadrant is the negative 1/2. For number 6, tangent, that's y over x. Pi is one of our quadrantal angles. The coordinates for that are negative 1, 0. So y over x, 0 over negative 1, that's 0. Okay, next we have tangent of 11 pi over 6. Remember that tangent is our y over x. 11 pi over 6 is in the fourth quadrant. And in our pi over 6 family, that y over x would be 1/2 divided by root 3 over 3, which comes out to be root 3 over 3. Since that is in the fourth quadrant, it is a negative root 3 over 3. Number 8, cosine is our x value. Negative 13 pi over 4 is in the second quadrant. And our x-coordinate in the second quadrant is negative root 2 over 2 for our pi over 4. For number 9, sine is our y-coordinate. 5 pi over 4 is in the third quadrant. And the y value in the third quadrant and our pi over 4 family is negative root 2 over 2. Number 10, the cosine of negative pi. Cosine is our x value, and negative pi is coterminal with pi. Remember those coordinates are negative 1, 0, so our cosine is negative 1. Number 11, tangent, that is our y over x value. Negative 7 pi over 6 is in the second quadrant, and that value for our pi over 6 family, second quadrant, will be a negative root 3 over 3. Number 12, the sine of 0. Sine is our y-coordinate, and remember that 0 is one of our quadrantal angles. Its coordinates are 1, 0, so the y value there is just 0. Okay, I hope we're doing well so far. Moving on. Number 13, the cosine of 11 pi over 6. Remember, cosine is our x-coordinate. 11 pi over 6 is in the fourth quadrant. And for our pi over 6 family, the cosine, the x value in the fourth quadrant is a positive root 3 over 2. For number 14, sine is our y-coordinate. Negative pi over 3 is in the fourth quadrant. quadrant. So the y-coordinate of our pi over 3 family in the fourth quadrant is a negative root 3 over 2. Number 15, tangent, that's y over x. 3 pi over 2 is not in any quadrant. Remember the coordinates for 3 pi over 2 are 0, negative 1. So when we calculate negative 1 divided by 0, we get undefined. So moving on to number 16, tangent of 60 degrees. This is where it's nice to be able to convert easily back and forth between degrees and radians for some of our very common unit circle values. 60 degrees is the same thing as pi over 3. So if we think about it that way, the tangent is y over x, and it's in the first quadrant, and our value here, which is root 3 over 2 divided by 1/2, ends up giving us just positive square root of 3. Number 17, very similar issue, cosine is x. Negative 150 degrees is negative 5 pi over 6. It's also coterminal with 7 pi over 6. It is in the third quadrant, and our cosine, it's our x value for our pi over 6 family in the third quadrant, is a negative root 3 over 2. Number 18, the sine of 120 degrees. 120 is 2 pi over 3. It's multiple of 60, so it goes into our pi over 3 family. Sine is our y-coordinate, and this is in the second quadrant. So the y-coordinate of our pi over 3 family in the second quadrant is positive root 3 over 2. Number 19, the sine of 3 pi over 2. Sine is our y-coordinate. 3 pi over 2 is a quadrantal angle. Our coordinates are 0, negative 1. So the sine is just negative 1. Number 20, the tangent of 5 pi over 3. Tangent is y over x. 5 pi over 3 is in the fourth quadrant. And for our pi over 3 family, then the y over x is root 3 over 2 over 1/2, which is a root 3. We're in the fourth quadrant though, where y is negative, so we get a negative square root of 3. Number 21, the sine of pi. Sine is just our y-coordinate. Pi, negative 1, 0. So our sine value of pi is just 0. Number 22, the tangent of 135. This is in our pi over 4 family. It is 3 pi over 4. Tangent is our y over x. And 3 pi over 4 is in our second quadrant. The tangent of our pi over 4 family in the second quadrant is negative 1. Number 23, the cosine is our x value. 2 pi over 3 is in our second quadrant. So the x value of our pi over 3 family in the second quadrant is a negative 1/2. Number 24, sine is our y value. Negative 4 pi over 3 is in the second quadrant. So our y value of our pi over 3 family in the second quadrant is a positive root 3 over 2. And our last one's right here. Number 25, the cosine of 2 pi. Cosine is just our x-coordinate. 2 pi is coterminal with 0. Our coordinates are 1, 0. So the cosine or the x-coordinate is just 1. Number 26, sine of negative 11 pi over 6. Sine is our y-coordinate. Negative 11 pi over 6 is in the first quadrant. So the y-coordinate of our pi over 6 family in the first quadrant is 1/2. And number 27, tangent of 0. Tangent is y over x. Remember the coordinates for 0 are 1, 0. So 0 over 1 gives us a value of 0. Now for our last page, name the quadrant that is described. Sometimes students get a little bit mixed up with these, just reading what it's saying. These are talking about what's positive and what's negative. I'm going to refer really quickly to our mnemonic about all students take calculus. Remember, this tells us which trig functions are positive in which quadrant. The first quadrant, all of them are positive, and the second quadrant, sine is positive. In the third quadrant, tangent is positive, and in the fourth quadrant, cosine is positive. So for number 28, we're looking for where sine is positive and cosine is negative. Well, sine is positive at quadrants 1 and 2, but all of our functions are positive in the first quadrant, so quadrant 2 is the one where sine is negative. Sine is positive and cosine is negative. Number 29, sine is negative and cosine is negative. Okay, so we don't want the part where all of them are positive, or where sine is positive, or where cosine is positive. We're looking for where tangent is positive but everything else is negative. That's in quadrant 3. Remember, this makes sense because this is saying our x value is negative and y value is negative and our x value is negative. That's quadrant 3. Number 30, the sine is negative and the cosine is positive. And if we refer to all students take calculus, cosine is positive in quadrants 1 and 4, but in 1 everything's positive, so the area where cosine is positive but sine is negative, that's quadrant 4. Which again makes sense. Our y is negative and our x is positive, that's cosine 4. That's quadrant 4, excuse me. And number 31, sine is positive and cosine is positive. That's where our y is positive and x is positive. That's in the first quadrant. Okay, if you still have questions about this and are uncertain, not quite ready to take a quiz yet, or have any questions at all, come to office hours on Wednesday afternoon. Thanks.